Welcome back everyone to the Ultimate Book Marathon series. It's been a while since episode 5 being Timewyrm Apocalypse, about 6 or 7 months it's been. Now we're on episode 6, back to the BBC books. This is The Bodysnatchers, written by Mark Morris. So yeah, 3 books so far, with both ranges, Virgin books and BBC EDA books. And as I said with the EDA range, they played out more safe compared to the Virgin books, because they started throwing in series, arcs and trilogies right off the bat with the Timewyrm series and the Cat's Cradle trilogy. Whereas this, the EDAs, they didn't go batshit crazy at the start. That is more later when we go into the Interference, Shadows of Avalon. You know, that is when the batshit crazy stuff happens with the EDAs. So it takes time before the crazy stuff happens with the EDAs. They started out quite safe, and the first big book to begin the arcs was Alien Bodies. Now, Genocide does start out a few, but it's very small. But Alien Bodies being the big one, starting the big arc first, with Faction Paradox. And yeah, I had a very controversial opinion with the BBC EDA books, because I rated the 8 Doctors higher than Vampire Science. I personally enjoyed the 8 Doctors for what it was. It wasn't anything legendary, like a 9 out of 10 or a 10 out of 10. I give it an 8 out of 10 because the enjoyment factor was very high on it. And I think that's one of the most important things for a book to have. If it's enjoyable, it's going to get a very high mark from me. Vampire Science just, maybe I went too much into it thinking it would be an excellent book, but I found flaws with it. Characterization was solid, perfection. When we're looking at the story itself and a few of its areas, it was lacking for me, in my opinion. Virgin books have been up and down. It started out terrible with Timewyrm Genesis. Exodus, it was fantastic, and Apocalypse went back to the average place again. Not on the levels of Genesis, but rather average. So I was hoping Revelation can really pick it up. And I was hoping the Bodysnatchers can improve over Vampire Science, because that one did disappoint me by, I just find it overrated and a little bit disappointing. So yeah, now we're by the Bodysnatchers. So what do I think about this book? Was this book good? To tell you the truth, no. Sadly, I do not like the Bodysnatchers. It was a disappointing read. I was very disappointed with that. I've got a massive amount of emotions when thinking about the Bodysnatchers. I was going into it thinking I was very excited about it. I was definitely looking forward to it. And in areas, yeah, I really did enjoy it. It had its moments, though it does lack in a lot of places. Some things really got on my nerves. And there's one aspect about this book which, believe it or not, goes into the territory of synthespians. Yeah, this pile of garbage right here. What it did to Matheson, the villain, the outcome to it all, the Autons, it was atrocious. And the Bodysnatchers right here has one moment where it feels just like this. This is not Synthespians 2.0. It's not. That moment really got me. And I just couldn't believe that part. It was just a joke. Stupid. And yeah, we'll get into that later on. Yeah, Mark Morris with this book. This is written by a fan for fans. That's how I and many people view this book and his stories. He did also do Deep Blue, PDA range. He's done a Big Finish audio, which I absolutely despise, being Moonflesh. It's one of the worst Big Finish audios of all time, in my opinion. But he did do one story from Jacob and Litefoot Series 2, my favourite Big Finish release of all time, and that was Necropolis Express, which was bleak, it was tense, it was dark, it was brilliant. And this was his first novel, and I can see, yeah, I think he needed a bit more experience with writing. still, he's got the necessary requirements and the essential things that every book needs, that I and everyone expects to be in a book. And that's like characters, the characterization, the development, you know, all the standard stuff which everyone expects. If it doesn't have that, then the book will just be appalling, like Invasion of the Cat People. Yeah, Mark Morris, he hasn't done too much for Doctor Who. I can think of very little from him. I think his most popular work is maybe this, or Deep Blue. I see a lot of good opinions on Deep Blue. You know, some people find it quite average. It's divided a little bit, but Moonflash, I hated it. So, you know, Mark Morris has never been a writer that sticked out to me, stands out. Only one exception of Jacob and Litefoot Series 2, and that's it really. And harkening back to what I said, written by a fan for fans, there's a lot of nostalgia in this book. Zygons are featured in the story, set in the Victorian era, so we've got Litefoot in this one, uses a lot of classic formulas. I can really see Robert Holmes' influence on this book a little bit. Because he did do Talons, but I'm actually talking about another story Robert Holmes did, which I can really see that formula in this book. And that's not a bad thing, using previous formulas and putting it in your book and doing your own twist on it. That's absolutely fine. But there's one problem Mark Morris has, and that's showing his own imagination. So yeah, let's talk about the Bodysnatchers. And also, if you didn't know, my copy is actually signed. When I purchased this on eBay or Amazon, I can't remember, got this for £5. Didn't even know it was signed because it was never stated that it was signed. And it was back on the 23rd of September 1999. Yeah, the prologue, or chapter 1 really, because it doesn't really have a prologue. We see that a character is just scared out of his mind of seeing, or a Zygon from the background, and you can see this piercing red eyes, and he describes it as the devil, and it's set in this factory. And that's like the setup of the story, that there are odd, abnormal and malicious activities happening within this factory, which is affecting the workers. The workers are acting very odd and whatnot. That's the setup of the story, which is pretty good. It's okay. Definitely suits the Victorian era. I think the Zygons work quite good in this environment. The Rutons would work a lot better, but yeah, it's the Zygons. It's of course thick, you know, the fog, Victorian era. It really does suit the Rutons. It does, but yeah, that's going off topic, that is, a little bit. What I like is actually the structure of the story with the first 100 pages. How the story actually moves, it really does feel like a Jago and Litefoot full cast audio drama, where it first starts out like a post-mortem, which Litefoot's performing, and the Doctor comes in as well, states his opinions, and that's a very classic formula in the Jago and Litefoot stories. And so I quite like it uses what it feels a lot like a Jago and Litefoot story, even though the Jago and Litefoot series wasn't even a thing when this book was published. So to me, this book can be very easily adapted by Big Finish, but unfortunately they don't have the rights to the BBC books. They can't, so they don't have the permission to adapt BBC books, EDAs or PDAs. They don't have the right. And it's a shame really, because there's a few of them which I would love to see. They only have the rights for the Virgin books. And that range is finished. It ended with Cold Fusion because sales weren't doing very well apparently. So they just scrapped it because they weren't making enough money. But yeah, I quite like the structuring of the story because it makes me think to the Jago and Litefoot stories, and I said, yeah, it has like the same sort of flow to it a little bit. So I did appreciate that aspect for it, even though it is established way before the Jago and Litefoot series was even a thing. So I like that. And yeah, Litefoot, Professor George Litefoot from the Talons of Weng Chiang is in this book. But where's the other Infernal Investigator, Jago? Yeah, I'm not too sure about that. Why would you only put Litefoot in there and not Jago? I could love to find an answer, but I can't come up with an answer if I have no idea. No idea at all. I just don't get it. Why you want to put Jago in the story and just Litefoot? It's the only story that only features Litefoot on his own. it doesn't make much sense to me. It's nonsensical anyway. I'm not going to rant about that. But yeah, Litefoot is absolutely nailed in this book. The characterization, perfect. It's flawless. When reading the book, I can hear his voice. Just like listening to a Big Finish audio. It was perfect. Characterization, top notch on Litefoot. A 10 out of 10 to that character. That's what he said, the dialogue, his actions. But yeah, the one problem with pages 1 to 100, this is something Synthespian's had as well, but the thing is, that was padding. This doesn't have padding in 100 pages, it's just slow. It has this very slow, steady pace, and depending what type of a reader you are, I'm a very fast reader, so it didn't get to me, it didn't, but if you're quite a slow reader, pages 1 to 100 can be a little bit of a drag, because not a lot actually happens. You know, it's trying to find answers to like a few questions they have, like how did this body get completely mutilated, was it some kind of an animal, you know, questions like that, and trying to find answers, like going to the factory and whatnot. So that's how it really works with pages 1 to 100, even a little bit more, maybe to 120 is where maybe some answers actually come through. And yeah, most people would probably, I would say, DNF by that point, because not a lot happens. Again, I haven't seen any reviews by people or people that I know. Only know like a specific rating, but not what they think about pages 1 to 100. If it was just slow, the book didn't really go anywhere, it was just stuck in gear 1. And yeah, this book, for a large portion of it, is stuck in 1 gear. And seriously, I can see it pushing, but it really does struggle to get into 2nd gear. And I tell you where it does get into 2nd gear when I actually get to it in the book. Yeah, it's a slow book. It doesn't have the best drive in the world, best pacing. I like the structuring, but it's too slow. It's far too slow. Okay, now we're gonna go to the nostalgia thing. This is pretty much 100% nostalgia. It's driven on nostalgia, just nostalgia. Again, written by a fan, for fans. Though, to do this, what I like about a writer, and this is what a writer needs to stand out from the crowd, from everyone else, is their own imagination, show creativity, and even originality. Here, no, it does not. It's 100% nostalgia. As I said, Zygons, featuring the Victorian era, featuring characters from the Talons of Weng Chiang, Professor George Litefoot, using classic formulas. This, with the factory, it feels a lot like Spearhead from Space. It does, with the factory, like odd things happen in the factory. I said to myself, this feels a lot like Spearhead from Space, what's happening right now. Because the Autons are doing malicious stuff, hiding their identities. And the Zygons are doing the exact same thing. It's the exact same formula. Again, it's nice to use the formula, but as I said, I like writers who just show their own imagination, just show their own creativity, because there's none. It lacks imagination. It's all on nostalgia. And it's nice to see Litefoot in this book. It's nice to go back to the Victorian era. It's nice to see this classic formula. But where is the imagination to it all? Now, I'm not sure if this is Mark Morris's choice or the publisher's choice. Again, I don't have the answer to this question, so I'm not going to blame it on Mark Morris, nor am I going to blame it on the publisher, because I don't know who is in the wrong with this one, but it's the front cover. It gives away the monster, the Zygons. Maybe I'm going to go to the side this is the publisher's idea with the BBC, because the Zygons were very popular monsters, very popular one-off monsters from Terror of the Zygons, one of the most popular 4th Doctor stories out of the entire catalogue. So I think it was just really a money sort of strategy sort of thing. That's what the BBC were doing. So I don't think it was Mark Morris's idea. I think it was the publisher's idea. And again, I know the thought process around it, but you know, making money and whatnot. But the book would just stand so much more better, and even the first 100 pages would stand so much more better because it needed that element of mystery. And it doesn't have it because we already know what monsters featured in the book. So why reveal him? Something else should have been put here. Maybe a person with glowing red eyes, a human. So that doesn't give us the question. That doesn't give us the answer. Sorry, but yeah, this is a Zygon in the book. Or put a gravestone by here to symbolize the Bodysnatchers or something like that. By putting it on the front cover, you're just messing up. You're just completely getting rid of a really good mystery this book would have had. Yeah, that was the wrong thing to do. Not the money aspect of it, but the actual book and how he would stand overall. It ruins it. Completely gets rid of any mystery that it could have had. I was, nah. It would have got a higher mark because it would have had mystery. So unfortunately, publishers, I'm guessing it's the publishers, made a mistake there. They shouldn't have done that. The BBC did the exact same thing with Earthshock. This suffers the Earthshock problem where they put a Cyberman on the front cover of Earthshock, and what made Earthshock so good when it was originally transmitted was the first episode's cliffhanger. Because no one expected them to pop up. Don't just reveal them on the front cover like this. With a book, it's a lot different because, yeah, it's a lot different. To the characterization, there's a part which is really good, there's a part which is really, really bad. And it links to the Doctor himself. It's atrocious, but anyway. The characterization is pretty good for the most part. The Doctor is written very calm, relaxed, kind, very different from his 7th incarnation, his previous incarnation. Because in Vampire Science, supporting characters went over the whole discussion that the Doctor was not a nice man, he was not a good person, the master manipulator and all that. He did he had very powerful actions. So that's what I like about the whole Vampire Science thing, and that little plot strand sort of thing just comes into the Bodysnatchers a little bit, and I do like it. But the Doctor wants to hide his 7th incarnation, and now he's a completely new man, a new person. Doesn't agree with genocide and whatnot, strict, aggressive actions, which the 7th Doctor definitely had. But that's what we're coming to the worst thing about the Bodysnatchers and really diminishes the rating. And that's near the end of the book, like 200 odd pages in. Sam was characterized pretty good as well. Felt a little bit different compared to Vampire Science. She's a little bit more what's the word? Probably big-headed, independent, and more acting like a 17-year-old, a typical moody 70-year-old teenager. I could tolerate her characterization in Vampire Science. This sometimes was on a loose thread, but it didn't annoy me too much. And again, I like the part where it harkens back again to Vampire Science that, of course she wants to go with the Doctor and whatnot. The Doctor says no. Yeah, Sam goes for the whole subject that the Doctor doesn't want her to go because of her gender. There's a lot of sexism in this and whatnot, but she keeps bringing it up and whatnot, political stuff. But yeah, it's to her age, really, and her inexperience is what the Doctor is on about. But she comes up to the point of what happened in Vampire Science. She protected herself from a vampire and someone else which happened in Vampire Science, which I won't say because it will spoil the book. But yeah, it harkens back to Vampire Science, nice characterization and whatnot. Again, it's a lot more stronger in Vampire Science. It's really the characterization, really the development on Sam is just coming from what happened in Vampire Science. You've got a few supporting characters in this one. Again, Litefoot was absolutely nailed to perfection, just flawless. The two Zygons were pretty good, like the two main Zygons being the Warlord, which is Balak, and then Tuval, who was one of the Zygon scientists. An interesting character on the Zygons part. I'll get into her later. The other side of supporting characters were just pretty meh, really. We have Emmeline Shears. We have her father. She's worried about her father because she's acting odd in his factory, as if Is he being manipulated by the Zygons? If he is a Zygon and whatnot, that's stuff which you can find out for yourself. You got Tom, who was the character who went through that dilemma of seeing a Zygon, freaking out, acting a little bit neurotic, and his behavior changing when he saw those massive red eyes staring right at him and claiming that it's the devil. And then you have Jack going through the whole part of burning down the factory because evil lives there, of what happened to Tom when seeing glowing red eyes. But yeah, they were rather bog standard really, nothing super special about them. The only ones which were special, I did like the Zygon characters, but the one which really stuck out, the one that really did stand out the most, is obvious, is the one which has been previously established before being Litefoot. They're not any original ones. But the Zygons, yeah, they did. More to Tuval, who was the Zygon scientist. Just delivered different than you expect, really. Because the difference with Tuval, that Zygon's a scientist, not a warrior. Alright, now I'm going to read a part of this book and just come up with your own conclusions. It's on page 129. And I am going to read this. Again, some people really do make a big deal out of this and say it's just absolutely terrible and just really have a go at it. It's not the worst thing about this book, it's the thing that the Doctor does is the worst thing about the book. I'll read page 129. An added effect on sterilization is that it alters not only the Zygon's personality, but also its appearance. In its natural state, a Zygon has smooth, creamy white skin, and it's dainty, almost feminine in appearance. After sterilization, however, its body fills out, its skin color deepens to a reddish orange as it becomes suffused with blood, and it develops body armor rather like a porcupine, raising its quills in the form of suckers, which if a Zygon is attacked, releases a deadly poison. So yeah, Zygons aren't born, how you see them in the classic series like Talons of Zygons. I think what people have a problem with this is how they get to the stage of how they're supposed to look like. Yeah, this goes a bit into the Zygons and their biology, their way of life, and more their militaristic, honourable, attributes of their characters, their villains. I like that part of it. Yeah, I'll discuss, their way of life, how it changed, because for survival reasons, a Zygor was destroyed by an attack. And the villains who attacked Zygor and destroyed the home planet, the Zygons, were the villains within Deep Blue. So yeah, this does have references and connections to Deep Blue from the past Doctor Adventures. So we see their way of life in the Bodysnatchers, of how they get sustenance from Scarazan, like milk and whatnot. And yet, no, I know people do not like this part, and it's fine because I get the reasoning behind it. I don't think that should have been included within the book. It feels a lot like, how the Time Lord survived after the Pythor curse, with the looms and whatnot. So it's something very similar, but how the Zygons survived when their homeworld was destroyed. But I do like their militaristic side being brought up and how their hierarchy works, because then you have the warlords, have the military Zygons, and then you have the scientists who think quite differently, more especially Tuvok's character, I think very differently from the military Zygons, the militaristic ones, and the warlords. The scientists are bound to follow what the warlord says because of honor and whatnot. The very honorable race, like the Ice Warriors, actually no, I wouldn't say Silurians, but Sontarans, but in a different way. They feel a lot different from Sontarans, and they feel a lot different from Draconians. So I definitely do like that stuff within this book, and Tuvok is a good demonstration of that side with the Zygons, because now I'm not going to go into Tuvok's character because I want you to find all that by yourself and experience that for yourself. And yeah, there is a subplot which links to Jack's character burning down the factory and whatnot. That's just to see another perspective of what's going on within the story. Not really a subplot sort of thing. It's like seeing the story in another perspective, really, and then wanting to burn down the factory. Okay, now let's discuss the worst thing about the Bodysnatchers. This is seriously, I could not believe this. I was thinking, is this doing a Synthespians to me right now? Oh, I could not believe it. This is not just a villain, a really well built a villain doing something bad. This is the Doctor himself. The character which we all love. Right, the Doctor goes for a speech telling the Zygons, telling the Warlord himself that wiping out humanity here, it's wrong. Genocide is wrong. You're just killing millions of people just for your own benefit. The Doctor has always been against genocide, even the 7th Doctor to a certain extent, but a little bit more depth to him, I would say. And the 3rd Doctor with the Silurians, the Sea Devils, again, feels like a very 3rd Doctor formula again. And the 8th Doctor, you know, he's got a very kind personality now. It's very much different from his 7th incarnation, and he's telling the Zygons and the Warlord that genocide was wrong, but due to the Warlord's honour, he completely ignores and denies what the 8th Doctor says. Then the 8th Doctor brings up that he can take them to an uninhabited planet so they can build their colony, but due to honour and whatnot, the Zygons wouldn't work with the 8th Doctor and the Warlord wouldn't agree to it, and his Zygon followers would always do what Ubalak, the Warlord, does and says. So I'm going to bring this up. It could be considered a spoiler, but it's so bad I have to bring it up. Sorry about that, my camera lost balance. Anyway, this is what the Doctor does. The Doctor accidentally kills all the Zygons due to a chemical leakage. Yes, accidentally creates genocide due, get this, due to carelessness, foolishness, stupidity, and ignorance. All those words do not define the Doctor. This is the first time ever I've seen the Doctor do something like this in any medium. Any form of media. The Doctor being ignorant, careless, stupid. You're going into Synthespians level here. Now, grant this, Synthespians is probably even worse. But the thing that hurts here, it's the Doctor himself. When I read this, I heard something about this with reviewers. I just heard it. I never knew what he did, but I knew something bad was coming, and that is what it is. What the Doctor does. The Doctor isn't careless. He wouldn't do something so stupid. He goes on the speech about genocide and whatnot, and then he commits genocide accidentally. And how it's executed, it is terrible. It is seriously terrible. It's horrific. And he goes, oh sorry. No, that's not going to change anything. He just wiped out nearly all the Zygons due to an accident. And the way you portray it is just, it is one of the worst things I've ever seen executed. Now, I do like the idea, but the execution is what brings the whole thing down. If Mark Morris wanted to go with this idea, this is what I would have done. Let's say the Zygons just couldn't cooperate with the Doctor. They could not agree to his terms, and they were going about just wiping humanity, releasing all the Scarazan, and destroying humanity. That's what they plan to do. So the Doctor has no alternative but to actually release a chemical to kill the Zygons. He would have to commit genocide from an innocent race from being destroyed by Zygons. So he would have to commit genocide. Even though he hates the idea, he has to commit it to save the human race. That would have been handled so much more better, and then he would have gone through the whole dilemma of saying his 7th incarnation's coming back again. He needs to put that in the shadows, just hide it away. If he did that, I think that would have been some perfect, a perfect arc for the EDAs of seeing the 7th Doctor sort of creeping in again a little bit. But no, that is personally how I would have handled it. If I was writing this book, that's how I would have done it. But again, how it was done here, due to an accidental thing, it is a joke. Because it just shows the Doctor being ignorant and careless. I'm trying to think of something else with the Doctor's being characterized as being incredibly careless and ignorant and stupid. The worst thing about the Bodysnatchers, because you're actually not characterizing the Doctor, the main character of Doctor Who, correctly. Not only that, horribly executed. What on earth was Mark Norris thinking of that? Again, I like the idea of genocide, with the Doctor not liking it, but if he goes to the part where there's no alternative but to wipe out the Zygons, that would have been handled a lot better. Then the dilemma thing could have come into play, and the Seventh Doctor persona should have, creeped in a little bit. But hey ho, what can you do? It was written in 1997, can't change it. Yeah, that is one of the worst negatives I've ever gave a Doctor Who story before. Absolutely horrific. Right. So yeah, that was the Bodysnatchers. Again, there's so many mixed emotions with the book. In places I enjoyed it. Places, then there was areas where it lacked, areas disappointed, and then one massive negative, which I do not get the logic behind it. The execution was sorry, I'll reword it. The execution was the massive problem with that part of the story. It could have been handled so much better. So yeah, let's go into the in-depth rating of the Bodysnatchers. Story / premise. It was pretty good. I was definitely excited for this story, but the premise itself, it just didn't come together. It was all over the place. I had mixed emotions with that. 5 out of 10 for the story and the premise. Now I'm gonna change my in-depth rating a little bit because I've added a new one now called Execution. Just the overall execution, I would say, of its elements and whatnot, and the story itself. Horrendous! Just terrible. I just cannot comprehend it in my mind at sometimes because I've got I just got mixed emotions for it. 3 out of 10 for Execution, and how that, you know what part I'm all about with the Doctor, how that was executed. One of the worst things I've ever read in a book. Character / development. It was going good. The Doctor was pretty good. Sam was pretty good. Again, this is essential things you need in a book. Supporting characters are on their side. Litefoot was flawless. Zygons were pretty good. But the whole thing together, it just fell on its face, especially when it gets to the Doctor being completely not characterized correctly. And I would say it's in the middle with a 5 out of 10. Enjoyment factor, I was enjoying it, but again, mixed emotions, it's a 5 out of 10. Writing / dialogue, I'm not very fussy when it comes to writing, really. I don't care if a writer's quite vague, it's quite descriptive, like Dean Koontz. I don't really care. I'm not fussy about writing. Vocabulary. If the writer has an extensive vocabulary, I don't care. If he's throwing fancy words, I'm not going to rate it up or down. I'm not going to rate it up on that where, he uses complex terminology and whatnot. The only thing I care about writing is just if it's readable. That's it. I don't care if he's trying to be pretentious like Lawrence Miles. But yeah, 7 out of 10, and the dialogue was fine. There's nothing wrong with the writing / dialogue. It's okay. Drive / pacing, one of the worst aspects of the book. It was very slow. It could never get into second gear. It was pretty much like this. And then due to 220 pages, it then just got into second gear. Really struggling. It's like it won't accept it. But it's just trying to get there. And it does, but that's 220 pages. And this is a 280 page novel. So the tension and suspense, it took far too long to get into the story. 3 out of 10. Padding. There's not really any padding in this book. But padding, you know, there's not too much padding within this book actually, so 8 out of 10. That's pretty good, you know, because I hate padding within books, especially, you know, Synthespians, because it's littered. It's filled with padding. It's the book with the most amount of padding that I've read. Villain/threat. The Zygons didn't pose too much of a threat, really. I wanted to see just some action from them, really, but you didn't really get that. 6 out of 10 for the Zygons. They've been portrayed a lot better in Terror of the Zygons. Twist/unpredictability. There was one sort of cliffhanger which I said, yeah, I quite liked that. That was pretty good. That was quite well handled. But even though there was a twist of what the Doctor did, it was horrible. So yeah, split right down the middle, 3 out of 10. Sorry, no, 5 out of 10. Main elements. It should have had atmosphere. It was not well done. It should have been tension in here as a main element, but no, it only popped up during the 220 page mark. Very, very unremarkable. 3 out of 10. Originality/creativity. I like that Mark Morris went into like the hierarchy of the Zygons. So I appreciated that. But it lacks imagination, it lacks creativity, it's all 100% nostalgia pretty much. No, Mark Morris doesn't show his originality, and that's what a writer needs to stand out. 2 out of 10. And reread, I would go for a 5. This gives it an overall total of 57 out of 120. And the final mark, final rating, is 4 out of 10. What a disappointment for the Bodysnatchers. I'm not liking what the EDAs are doing. It's going like this. The 8 Doctors, Vampire Science, Bodysnatchers, and I hope Genocide doesn't do the same thing. It's going down. It's going down. Yeah, to the overall points of both the Virgin books and the BBC EDA and the BBC EDAs, the Virgin books are on 195 points, and the BBC EDA books are on 226. The reason why the Virgin books are losing is because Timewyrm Genesis is one of the biggest pieces of shit ever written, and if that was a good book, the Virgin books would be in the lead. Because yeah, compared to the Bodysnatchers and Genesis, Genesis is a piece of shit, as I've described many times on the channel and on my review of it. Yeah, the Rangers are both doing their own things, really. The Virgin books, they're going up and down, really. Up and down. And the EDAs are going downwards. Very different. Now, I've read 3 books from each range, and I can definitely see what range has its benefits and what range has its disadvantages, and comparing them and whatnot. You know, I'm going to do my first comparison video when I get to C and I for my first battle with the Virgin books and the EDA. But yeah, that's been my review of the Bodysnatchers. But yeah, I know you're very lucky because there's 2 videos out Saturday, and one of them is on TJ Extras. And I'll be reviewing a non-Doctor Who book, because yeah, I like to review non-Doctor Who books, because I'm not just a fan of Doctor Who books, I'm shock horror, isn't it? Because it's in the thousands now, my Doctor Who books. But yeah, it's a review of Dean Koontz's Intensity, one of my favourite books of all time. I've read it 3 times, twice in school, and now quite recently, because I'm doing a re-experience of one of my favourite authors, Dean Koontz. Unfortunately, he has lost what he once had, but his golden age, some of the best books ever written. But yeah, up next for the Ultimate Book Marathon for the Virgin books and BBC EDAs. For the Virgin books, it's a Timewyrm Revelation, the conclusion of the Timewyrm series. This one has a big game, The big challenge. A lot of people like this. A group of people love this one. It's written by a very prolific author. It's Paul Cornell, after all. So I hope you nailed it. I know it's a mindfuck of a story. Some people just don't like it. I know, the only thing I know is just how the story is told. That's all I know. Yeah, I can find that one to be a very difficult one to review because it can be very spoilerific. So that's why I'm going to it completely blind, pretty much. So I'm not sure how long the review of that one's going to be. I think it's going to be pretty short. But yeah, for the EDAs, that Revelation will be episode 7. Episode 8, the next BBC EDA will be Genocide. Don't go even lower than Bodysnatchers because that will be awful. Very awful. And I know Paul Leonard his writing style is a little bit convoluted because I've experienced it before. And he goes for this non-linear approach. He does. So it's not like straightforward. It's a bit, this is here, that's here, and you have to put it together like a jigsaw, like a puzzle. But yeah, Paul Leonard just has this very convoluted way of doing it. And yeah, we have quite a lot of those books where it feels like a puzzle. You have to, work with the book. Revelations like that, Genocides like that, Timewyrm, Cat's Cradle Time's Crucible is a lot like that. So yeah, we have some quite big books coming up. We do. But yeah, I just hope Genocide doesn't suck even more than Bodysnatchers. I don't hate the Bodysnatchers, actually. I just find it very unremarkable. And just one thing really gets on my nerves. So, War of the Daleks, all I can do is hope an alien bodies, even though I think it's written by a very pretentious writer. I'm quite confident that it'll turn out good at least. So yeah, thanks for watching my review of the Bodysnatchers. As I said, if you're interested in seeing my non-Doctor Who book review by Dean Koontz being Intensity, that is on TJ Extras. There'll be a link in the description and as the outro of this video. And the next video on TJ Reductions is a showcase video, number 54, I do think, even though it's been a while since I made a showcase video, so I can't really remember the number. But yeah, I'll be showcasing Doctor Who books and non-Doctor Who books in that video, and something quite big. So thanks for watching, and of course, have a good one.